I bring you to the anti-background. Okay, first anti-background, so click again, yeah. Actually, we are manufactured protein, oil, and also the organic fertilizer, and using a black soldier fly larvae. Okay, on your right hand side, that is the larvae called black soldier fly, and the top one is the adult of it. So we are creating one whole cycle of black soldier fly at the and we also use that larvae to feed with the agri waste and convert to the useful products such as protein, oil, and organic fertilizer. So we actually for a greener and healthier future for everyone. And before I move, I would like to show my co-founder, and also he's Nick on left hand side, and right hand side is Tom. Click again, yeah, next. Okay, actually we started the R&D scale at Vietnam on 2015, and then we have several competitions we involved and fundraising, and lastly we established our industry scale level of BSF company at Johor, Iskandar Putri. So now I am working at there as a research scientist. Yeah. Okay, next. Okay, why I love this job as a research scientist in black soldier fly, because this is one of the alternative protein source for the world, replacing the fish meal. So now we are over-exploiting the fish or by fishing at the ocean, and we are like almost cutting the food chain. So this insect meal has a replacement for that fish meal for our even animal and also human not yet now for animal. So soon there will be some good things from the insect meal also. So we are more sustainably feed the global population through a circular economy. So why we say circular economy, you can see on my right hand side, this is our whole process. So we are in the middle, so where we try to get all the agri waste and we try to formulate it. So can you click again? Okay, here is my dream job. So where I try to get the source, the agri waste, and I formulated it and convert to the useful called a silage for the larvae to compose that, and they make it usable products like I mentioned before, which is protein, oil, and also the agriculture, which is the fertilizer. Now we call as a FRUS. So this below is our product. So we already established several products. The new one is the Vitalist. Okay, so if you want more about our product, can go our website, Nutrition Technology. So next we jump to our ESG journey. So our company, since this is a very pilot stage, and we try to involve most ESG involved in the policy, business hygiene policy, where we try to incorporate all the 10 principles, the UN Global Compact, and we also did several activities such as life cycle assessment, zero emission monitoring. So through this, what I feel that yes, we are doing, but what else we are lacking? Like we said, we sustainably convert the agri waste into useful product. So is that match our sustainability properly, which is achieve the SDG goals? And actually, we are not really at before this, but now we are almost achieving. Because why we educate the people surrounding us, and also on the higher level to know what the sustainability is. So next, then only now we are involved in the SDGI program. And from my side, I learned more what is SDG. Before this, I don't know what is SDG. And after I go to this SDGI program, I learn more, and there they also learn how to design, which is how to identify our SDG business challenges. Next, and then we go to the breakthrough business model, where we try to reshape again our challenges. Next, this is the important things where we break through the technology. We need to create our own solution, which is called prototype. So next, finally we test it in our site as a preliminary result to confirm before fully implementations. So this is one of the important things I learned through UN Global Compact program, this SDGI. I encourage everyone to join it, the youth here, because this is very helpful. Because if we say we are doing in a sustainable way our company, actually we are not 100% achieving it, because we not have enough education on SDG and also sustainable way. So by doing this, we're able to identify each and every challenges. Even myself, I know in which part. Just now I show one whole cycle, like our company. So which part we should focus, we should identify the challenges. So from there, next. Okay, we have two identified recently, which is wastewater treatment. Next, product packaging. And my side is more focused on product packaging because my team involved in the end product side. Next, so this one, we have several products, but we focus more on the local, highly selling product, which is a frost, they call frost. So we deliver through jumbo bag. So this jumbo actually we can recycle it because we purchase, we sell. We purchase the plastic and we sell. We claim that we are producing product with zero waste, but actually indirectly we give them with the plastics and they dump in the land. And at the end, it lead to climate action also, one of the problem, pollution. So here we try to recycle. This is another, actually we are not so clear on this actually, how we're going to tackle this problem. But through coming this SDI program, we narrowed down, we like to start with the framework and narrow down to the solution, actually be able to tackle these problems. Now we are in the way of implementation. Next, until the end. Next. Yeah, we are in the implementation stage. Next. So this is our memories, including SDGI program. So my green job, I think that I involve in a company that replacing the fish meal. So we are in the way of a sustainable way. Actually, we need to have another step. We need to give some education also between us and also our company to make sure we are giving a very good, impactful way to give a set meal replacing the fish meal. So that's my green job. I'm really love on this research scientist work for this black soldier fly. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Okay, a few in the room. Okay, great. So I'm just going to tell my story a little bit before we go more in depth. So my name is Mark, nice to meet you. I'm from a place called Sarawak that's in Malaysia. I used to study business, specifically human resource management. Somehow I started up my own environmental organization, and all my life, all the jobs that I've gotten so far has been in the NGO sector. I've worked in the Wildlife Conservation Society. I've been in the Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF. So how that started was quite a surprise for me as well, because going into conservation, I went into the communications and events line, and I actually felt that, I don't belong here because I don't have a communications degree. I had no background in conservation, so what gives me the right to be in a room full of conservationists telling them what my thoughts are, what I think is right. But this eventually became one of my strengths, because instead of having only researchers and scientists, it's good to have a mix of different people. Oh, can we go slide before please? Before. Okay, so Sarawak Eco Warriors was founded in 2017. We focus on three main areas at the moment. We are looking at youths, building them into being able to contribute better for conservation. We look at biodiversity, and we look into waste. So we were quite strong at one point. We did a lot of workshops, we did a lot of nature education, we did a lot of coastal cleanup programs. But there is always a challenge to it. Around the time COVID hit in 2019, we couldn't operate as usual. People were getting tired. People can't do volunteer level conservation forever. Coincidentally, that was the time we got a grant as well. So we pushed through until 2022. It was mentally tiring. Everybody was drained. We couldn't continue. And at that point, I decided, okay, you know what? we're just going to stop. We can't anymore. In that year, my mom passed away, and I was defeated. I didn't want to do conservation. I didn't care about anything. In that sense, I also tried applying for jobs, not green jobs specifically, but any jobs. I applied to about 300 jobs. I only received one response, and that was for a call center. I don't think any of us want to work in a call center. And I was reminded, why am I doing all of this? There's no value for me anymore. I thought back, I'm in Sarawak, one of the places in the world with the richest biodiversity. Not many people can be there, but being there, you think the people of the land, maybe they have, like in a university, you have 80 to 100 people graduating in sciences every year. Maybe one or two get a job doing what they originally studied. But what about everyone else? It didn't seem very fair. Next, please. And so I decided to start up my own organization called Plants for Plastic. And Plants for Plastic essentially means that, next slide please. Plants for Plastic is a garden center. It is an event space. We have a community gift shop. We do green landscaping. We do floral decor. We do events. We do programs for kids. And all of this is essentially an idea. Plants means, the place where we are currently, the nursery, and plastic is the solution that we're trying to address. Plastic pollution is a huge issue that I hope won't be huge forever. But it is something that is relevant to all of us, whether you care about conservation or not. We still use it every day in our lives. And it's been a great challenge. We are trying to create more jobs all the time, but it's difficult. Next, please. So some of the challenges that we face while creating a green business is the startup is very high. And I think not everyone can do this. And I do have some recommendations there. If you are looking to start up a business, you don't always have to start huge. You can think of smaller ways first. And one very effective way on how Plants for Plastic actually came to be is because we kept talking to people about it. And sometimes they would give us things, sometimes they would refer us to other people who would help us make something out of it. So Plants for Plastic, eventually, we received so many help from people that about 70-80% of the whole nursery is recycled, which I think is quite cool. If not, it would have costed us a huge fortune. And in response to getting new jobs, getting green jobs or looking for a place in the industry, something that I would really recommend for all of you would be, don't only look at the science sector of things. What's really important is that we can diversify our skills, know more. Because a while ago I had an engagement with Disney, and they said, the best practitioners are not those who study the field, but are those who care. And at the end of the day, we really need everyone to pitch in to make a difference. And this applies to many green jobs, like what Samantha said earlier. You don't have to be a researcher to work in the sustainability field. You can be an accountant, you can be a doctor, you can be anyone. And all of this, at the end of the day, we are developing a green community. So I think that's all I have to share for today. Thank you.
I'm super excited for this conversation because this is not a panel discussion, but we're going to have a bit of a fun, interesting, insightful conversation to see how we can collectively co-create an enabling environment to foster green jobs creation at scale. Because we always talk about green jobs, but we rarely take time to talk about the co-creating the enabling environment. So today is going to be a pretty interesting conversation for us to unwind what we know and also like get into our thoughts in terms of what we have been doing with our personal journey as well as work experience as well. Let me start off with Mark. Mark, you are a young researcher with a PhD in sustainability science. So he has PhD in sustainability science, which is pretty cool. And also he works with UN University as well. Mark, I think we have heard a lot of your work, and also we have been doing some interesting work with your research as well. Would you like to share more about what you do and also how it's connected to the conversation today?
Thank you very much, Husni, and a very good afternoon to the audience. It's an honor for me to be on the panel today. I think we spoke earlier, and you both are doing some great work, so I'm also very happy that we are having this conversation. So I'm originally from Ghana, but I've lived in Japan for the last 3 years. I did my PhD in sustainability science at the United Nations University, and currently working as a postdoc with dual affiliations with the UNU and also Kyoto University. So I basically do research on energy transitions in developing countries. And over the last 2 years, I also volunteer as a mentor for the Clinton Global Initiative University. So I've been mentoring some students in the Asia Pacific region on their sustainability related projects. And those that I mentored this year are actually graduating right now online, but I'm here so I couldn't join. So yeah, that's briefly about me. And I'm happy I have another colleague here who is also like into the research field, Reshma. So could you please tell us more on what you do?
Thank you, Mark. My journey started at the University of the South Pacific. So I am from Fiji, and the University of the South Pacific is the South Pacific's largest university. And I started my bachelor's in environmental science, followed by a post-graduation in environmental geoscience. So ever since I graduated, I was tutoring and also a teaching assistant at the University of the South Pacific, and I was basically teaching courses on environmental science as well as geoscience with a little bit of climate change and ocean science as well. So the teaching assistant and also the tutoring job led me to become a researcher. So I currently work as a research assistant at the School of Technology Engineering and Mathematics at the University of the South Pacific. So currently we are involved in a project that is called the REDIPA project. So what we are focusing on is research and innovation, ecosystems that focuses on climate change impacts in the 15 Pacific Island countries, and it also includes the French territories as well. Thank you. So my next question is to Husni. So Husni, you have been actively engaged in co-creating initiatives for systems transformation, right? So tell us more about your work and the Impact Voices and the organization you have co-founded.
Thank you, Reshma. I think before I share about the Impact Voices and the work I do on systems thinking, I think it's important just to say like what made me to do this. So basically I started my volunteering as all of you like during school days. I remember back then I used to do projects around solid waste management. So then that led to a very interesting opportunity with the British Council, where they chose me after 3, 4, 5 years of work as an international climate champion with their one of the global programs, which gave me a bit of a global perspective to climate work, as well as lead up some of the policy work as well. However, as all of us, like while we do volunteer work, we also get into our professional work, as well as I had this privilege of working with as a volunteer, professional, as well as continue with the youth network. So I had a privilege of being the founding trustee of the Commonwealth Youth Council, where I had to see how young people work in countries across 53 countries, which is very different sort of perspectives, as well as I continue to do my professional work as a consultant, as well as a program design strategist. So this all connected to a very interesting experience to me. But I have been asking a question, which most of the people ask in their 40s or 50s. I mean, I've been getting a lot of opportunities. I've been doing what I've been liking, but again, where it leads to, and also what are the gaps, because the moment you work with diverse groups, you also start to see some of the gaps, and also especially the perspective-wise. So that's where the question I always pose, are we shaping the future or busy reacting to the present? So I've been asking myself, am I just busy reacting to the present and the issues I start to see in my community or in region or national level, or are we shaping the future? So if I have to shape the future, what needs to be done? So these are some of the thinking that actually led me to co-found Impact Voices when I had a very, very stable, very interesting job. I decided to quit and then start work and take some time off to set up a social innovation intermediary. Why I call it intermediary is also not about just doing projects where whatever you get, but it's also about young people playing a role of an intermediary where you actually help people to co-create and collaborate. So it's not just about we do everything, but also how we really co-create in that space for everyone. So that's the sort of story behind Impact Voices, and I'll also maybe share some of the insights from our work, how we have been doing it. Finally, the very recent work that I did as a community is that lead up to COP26, we co-created an initiative called Sustainable 2040. That is my personal commitment for next 20 years to co-create a community of systems thinkers and conscious leaders across sectors, because I also felt sometimes we do a lot, but then we forget to see the systems from one end. The other end, we have all the system skills and we are great at whatever we do. But again, sometimes even young people lack with their conscious leadership and the ethics. So how do we really balance to drive this just transition is something important, which we can discuss more about. So this is something that I've been busy doing these days and co-creating with so many like-minded organizations and individuals. With that, let me move to Dr. Mark. So basically, as we focus on engaging youth in green jobs for a just transition, I think we have been discussing a lot about green jobs and just transition, but again, it's also important for the audience and everyone else to begin with a foundational question, right? So in your point of view, would you like to share your perspective on what just transition means in the context of today's discussion, because that will be the foundation for our next 20 minutes as well.
Thank you very much, Husni, and for that very interesting question. I think this is a term that since Monday many people would have heard. I counted about 11 sessions since Monday that mentions either energy transition or just transitions. So to put it in perspective, I think the climate crisis is now very obvious to us in many ways, from extreme heat waves to typhoons and so many other extreme weather events. And this kind of underscores the importance and the agency for the whole world to kind of reduce greenhouse gas emissions and also transition to more sustainable ways of producing and consuming. Now, there are so many dimensions of this transition, so you might have heard of food system transitions, mobility transitions, but probably the one that you hear most often is the energy transition. And I think there's been a lot of attention on that, especially in this conference this week. So this transition is essentially about moving from fossil-based systems to renewable energy, but also ensuring that we make more efficient use of our current energy systems that we have. But then it's a process that, if not carefully managed, can create both winners and losers. And I say this because, for example, in the Asia-Pacific region, as many people from the region are already aware, is heavily dependent on coal for electricity, for example. So on the one hand, yesterday I was in a session and I was happy when one of the speakers from India did mention that in the long term, with this transition, some sectors like the coal industry might disappear in the future. And that poses the challenge to people who are currently employed in this sector, there's a huge number of people. So on the one hand, it can result in job losses, if not properly managed. But on the other hand, this transition is also creating a lot of jobs. Like last year alone, the International Renewable Energy Agency established that the renewable energy transition created about 13.7 million jobs. And this is projected to reach about 60 million by 2030. So there's a huge opportunity here for new jobs. But then around 50% or more of these jobs are also like skilled jobs. So it also raises the question, how accessible are these jobs, especially to young people? Like, how accessible are these jobs in some geographic regions where opportunities to get these skills in the first place are lacking? So the just transition is essentially about ensuring that as society moves to more efficient energy systems, to more sustainable ways of producing and consuming, this process should be fair as much as possible in terms of both the benefits and costs that must arise, and also should be as inclusive as possible, such that no one is left behind. And there are so many ways in which the youth can participate. I think we've heard from 3 exceptional speakers, and I'm happy that many of them spoke about more like social and kind of regular jobs, because normally when you talk about a transition, people often think of the big technologies and stuff like that. But then they gave very excellent examples of how they are working in the corporate sector, in the NGOs, and in promoting like sustainability from the jobs they do. So I'm also very glad that I have Reshma here, who is also like a researcher and working in the university. So perhaps she can add her own experience of work as a researcher and how this is connected to this transition that we are talking about, and how she also engages youth in this process. So Reshma, what's you?
Mark. University of the South Pacific has 14 campuses around the 12 Pacific Island countries, and the projects we are involved in also includes, we make sure that the outcomes create actions so that we can have a transition to sustainable, sort of like sea sustainable transport initiatives, and also is known as CPOC in the Pacific. So I'm going to take you to the Pacific side now. So what we have in the Pacific is that we are looking at creating sea sustainable transport initiatives that includes creating sustainable wharfs and also transporting goods and services to people in the outer islands. Because in the Pacific we have lots of islands and they are mostly isolated. So it's very important, even if the Pacific needs to lead the way towards just transition, we are happy to do that. And also, we are also looking at, there is a gap between research and innovation currently. So the main focus of our university right now is to identify those gaps that are there in research and innovation, and also not only having the science background, because it's really important to also include the local communities as well, because we are working for them, and also the young people too, because they are the future leaders. So through that we are also overcoming some challenges and also trying to figure out what are the gaps and how we can also create more green jobs for young people as well in the Pacific Island countries. Okay, so now let's move on to Husni. I would like to ask you about your role as a strategic and enabler in co-creating enabling environment for young professionals, and please could you tell us more from your experience? What are some skills and enablers to facilitate youth engagement in preparing the next gen youth for just transition?
Thank you. So let me answer in this way. So when you Google for this particular question, you will get some of the answers, right? It will say communication, networking, and a few other things, advancing your capacity and all of that. So I'll keep that away, and then I'll just share. Maybe you might agree with some of this and you might not, but again, in case you also think some of these points I'll be sharing now is something you also thought, then please meet me after the session. We'd like to have a chat and see how best we can co-create certain things. Some of the things, apart from the traditionally discussed points, let me share some of the observations that we have had, because we see, one thing is like doing and trying to, or initiating projects to do in products or beneficiaries is one thing, but again, creating enabling environment is a different art, right? Because you have to be a systems thinker, you need to think of the exact system. It's also about systems leadership, and also how do you really look at the bigger picture and create that enabling environment for more people to get into the system, as well as support them to retain as well. Because right now we see most of the time there are opportunities and programs for them to attract, But again, once they are in, do we have enough programs and the community of practices to support them and guide them in this evolving environment is a big question. So since we don't have a lot of time, I'll just come down to some of the points that I think which are enablers and also which is important for us to consider. Number one for young people is about the self-awareness is important, because most of the time we get busy with so many things and we do not take a step back to think, why are we actually doing this? Even if I've been doing this, like how this really connected to the end result. So one of the things I think what is important is the self-awareness that also connect to the well-being. Because sometimes we are so much excited about things that we do and then we compromise our well-being and it'll end up to burnout, or maybe you might not have a strategy even in your life career-wise. So after 5-6 years you'll say, okay, I did good to the world, but now let me also think of my life, right? So it's also important that you balance all of those things, and that's why I say like self-awareness is crucial, which we don't always talk as one of the important skills that we need to have. The second one, obviously, the systems approach and the systems leadership, I would say, because it's not just about looking at it from a thinking point of view, but also as young people, how we can take the leadership as systems leaders. The third one is also about, as we also discussed yesterday, this whole area is evolving, and there's a lot to learn, a lot to recreate, and also a lot to rethink as well. So that's where I think you also need to be aware of the foresight tools, to think how best we can also sort of, look around, because certain things you will not find in the research reports or the findings and the desk review. So it's something comes with a number of other elements. So the foresight is important, but again, foresight is not design thinking tools. It's more than that. So get into that conversation, and young people upgrading themselves on that is crucial. The last one, I think it's my favorite one. I always say, you can have all the skills in the world, you will be the most talented person, but again, if you don't have the right ethics and the values, then all those skills can be used for, not for the social good, but the opposite way, right? So another thing, I think something is very important that helping young people to take conscious leadership. I'll tell you one example, and before we move to the next one, because when I speak to my university students, not my students, actually my friends and others, but again, I get to visit universities to talk to some of the second year and third year students. I see like they do a lot of volunteering work, but again, they do a lot of health runs, they do a lot of information, the impactful work. But at the end of the day, when it comes to their career choices, they forget everything they have been advocating for, right? In Sri Lankan context, there's sometimes like they choose the best people in the marketing for certain organizations, which do not produce social good anymore. But again, they actually end up, because they are the top in the batch and they have been paid really well and they have been taken for those organizations, and it's really sad to see sometimes young people end up in the industries that they're not supposed to use their skill or the experience they gain through the volunteer initiatives. But it happens because it's a lack of understanding, lack of systems thinking, as well as lack of consciousness, right? So that's why I say like it's also important while we talk about all those skill set, also look at our ethics and the values and how we can also help young people to make conscious decisions, so that that's also an important part of the diplomacy, international affairs, because if not, like when it comes to negotiations, when you're in this table we will talk a lot, but when you're on the negotiation table we can also be sort of diverted to certain other areas if you don't have the ethics and the values. So these are some of the skills I think it's important that we need to integrate whenever we work as communities. Yeah.
Thank you, Husni. So I'll ask a similar question to Mark. What are some ways in which young people can be equipped with the needed skills to take up green jobs?
Thank you. I think Husni gave very practical examples from his experience as a social innovator. So someone like coming from a more academic background and working in the university, I think that one of the key strategies that can be used to also mention that there's a lot of jargon in terms of these transitions, like energy transition, green jobs, green skills. Like, how do you communicate these terms? How do you make local people understand these concepts? Because even for those who know of these like terms and concepts, like for those who are not coming from, say, a climate or a kind of energy or transition like background, it's quite difficult sometimes for people to really understand these concepts. So I think it's also very important to find ways of making people to understand. Because it's not only the responsibility of, say, a government to ensure that the transition is just. it's not only the responsibility of businesses to ensure that the transition is just. Everybody needs to be involved, and for us to achieve that, it's essential that everybody understands what this means, everybody understands what this is for. And that is why I think the way we communicate these issues is very important. So those are like 3 key points that I would like to point out here. And I'm sure with Reshma coming from the Asia Pacific, maybe we have